Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to WNBA Trending. I'm your host, Ava, and tonight we're diving into one of the biggest stories in women's basketball right now, how Sophie Cunningham's defense of Caitlin Clark has fueled the Indiana Fever Stars' rapidly growing fanbase. Caitlin Clark has been the center of attention in the WNBA ever since she was drafted first overall by the Indiana Fever. Her transition from college superstar at Iowa to professional standout has been closely followed, and every game she plays draws national headlines. But what's been just as interesting as her record-breaking performances on the court is the cultural shift she's inspiring around women's basketball and how her interactions with players, both on her team and across the league, are shaping her journey. This week, Phoenix Mercury guard Sophie Cunningham stepped into the spotlight, not for a highlight reel play, but for her vocal defense of Caitlin Clark. The moment struck a chord with fans and commentators alike, sparking debate, admiration, and ultimately giving Clark's already massive fanbase another surge of energy and support. So how did this happen, and why has it become such a pivotal storyline in the WNBA? Let's break it down. First, some background. Caitlin Clark came into the league with more media attention than perhaps any rookie in the history of women's basketball. She was already a household name after shattering NCAA scoring records, and fans across the country had been waiting for months to see how her game would translate to the professional level. Predictably, her arrival stirred up mixed emotions in the league. Some veterans welcomed her with open arms, acknowledging the boost she brought to attendance, TV ratings, and sponsorship deals. Others expressed frustration with what they saw as excessive hype for a player who hadn't yet proven herself at the WNBA level. That tension has played out on the court, too. Clark has faced physical defense, hard fouls, and plenty of trash talk since her debut. For some, it's simply a rite of passage. Rookies often face rough treatment until they prove they can withstand it. But for others, it's become a question of whether Clark is being targeted unfairly. Enter Sophie Cunningham. Known for her fiery personality and competitive edge, Cunningham is no stranger to league controversies. But when she spoke up in defense of Clark, she surprised many who expected her to side with the veterans frustrated by the constant media spotlight on the young guard. Cunningham's message was clear: Caitlin Clark deserves respect. She argued that while Clark is still learning and adjusting to the professional game, the criticism she's been receiving has gone too far. She emphasized that players should recognize the bigger picture. Clark's presence is lifting the league as a whole, bringing in new fans and shining a brighter spotlight on women's basketball than ever before. Her words struck a nerve. Fans who had been fiercely protective of Clark since her college days immediately embraced Cunningham as an ally. Social media lit up with praise for Cunningham's stance, with hashtags like #ProtectCaitlin and #SophieSaidIt trending for hours. Now, what does this mean for Caitlin Clark's fanbase? First, it validates what so many of her supporters have been saying, that Clark is not just another rookie, but a generational player whose impact transcends the court. Hearing a respected WNBA veteran like Cunningham back her up adds credibility to the argument and helps quiet critics who dismiss Clark's fanbase as overly emotional or naive. Second, it creates a sense of solidarity. Clark's fans now see her not just as a player battling opponents on the court, but as someone whose presence is sparking conversations about fairness, respect, and the future of the league. Cunningham's defense adds fuel to that fire, turning Clark into a symbol of resilience in addition to her already impressive talent. And third, it brings more casual fans into the fold. Whenever a player draws headlines for being at the center of controversy, people outside the usual basketball audience start paying attention. Cunningham's comments and the reaction to them have drawn new eyes to Clark's journey. That, in turn, expands her fanbase beyond just Iowa faithful or WNBA diehards. She's becoming a cultural figure whose story resonates across sports and entertainment. But let's also look at this from the league's perspective. The WNBA has long been searching for breakout stars who can elevate the game to new levels of popularity. Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, Maya Moore, Candace Parker, they've all left an indelible mark, but Clark's rise is something different. It's coming in the age of social media, streaming, and viral highlights, where every big play can rack up millions of views within hours. For the league, the combination of Clark's undeniable skill and the ongoing storylines around how she's treated creates a perfect storm for engagement. Cunningham's defense doesn't just help Clark, it helps the WNBA too. It shows fans that the league has internal debates, personalities, and narratives that make it as compelling as any other sport. And the more fans are invested in those stories, the more they'll tune in, buy tickets, and support the players. Still, it's important to note that not everyone agrees with Cunningham. Some players and fans argue that Clark has to earn her respect just like anyone else, and that the scrutiny she faces is no different than what other rookies endure. They point out that the WNBA has always been a physical league, and that Clark, with her high usage and perimeter shooting, naturally draws defensive attention. But here's the difference. Caitlin Clark is not just any rookie. The numbers prove it. Her jersey sales are record-breaking, her games consistently deliver rating spikes, and she's drawn sellout crowds in arenas that haven't been full in years. That level of attention makes her treatment a bigger story than usual, and Cunningham's words only added fuel to the fire. As for Clark herself, she's been remarkably poised throughout the process. She hasn't complained about the fouls, the criticism, or the pressure. Instead, she's kept her focus on improving her game, lifting her team, and proving she belongs. And that's part of what makes her so magnetic to fans. She lets others do the talking while she delivers with her play. So, where does this go from here? If history is any guide, Clark's fanbase will only continue to grow. Every new storyline, whether it's a dazzling three-pointer, a tough loss, or a veteran's defense of her character, adds to the narrative that fans are following so closely. Sophie Cunningham's comments may seem like just one moment, but in the grand scheme of things, it's another step in Clark's transformation from promising rookie to cultural icon. To wrap this up, Sophie Cunningham's defense of Caitlin Clark wasn't just a soundbite, it was a turning point. It highlighted the tensions, the hopes, and the massive spotlight surrounding Clark's journey. And for her fans, it was a rallying cry. Clark is not just carrying the Indiana fever on her shoulders, she's carrying the WNBA into a new era. And thanks to moments like this, her fan base isn't just growing, it's becoming one of the most passionate and influential in all of sports. That's all for today's deep dive. I'm Ava, and you've been watching WNBA Trending. Stay tuned for more stories, highlights, and insights from around the league.